9th Kankakee County Board meeting to order. Today's invocation from Robert Ellington Snipes.
God of all creation, we come before you to welcome you to this meeting. We give you respect and acknowledge you as the creator and provider. It is you who are omnipresent, for you are everywhere. It is you who is omnipotent, for you have all power. It is you who are omniscient, for you know everything. Father, as we begin this meeting, I ask that you would guide our thoughts and our actions so that we may have a productive meeting today. Help us to accomplish our goals while displaying your character. Give us the wisdom to govern amid conflicting interests and issues of our time. Give us the synergy to work together in harmony for the common good and the commonwealth of our county, even when there is honest disagreement. I pray for the agenda set before us today. Please give us an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live, work, and do business in and around our beloved county of Kankakee. I pray these things in the mighty name of Yeshua, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
If I could, from our county clerk, if I could get a roll call, please.
Mr. Tripp. Mr. Washington.
Present.
Mr. Lejas.
Present.
Mr. Stauffenberg.
Present.
Mr. Vickery.
Present.
Mr. Olthoff. Mr. Hess.
Present.
Mr. Tholen. Mrs. Polk. Mr. McConnell.
Present.
Mr. Mulcahy.
Present.
Mr. Scott. Mr. Snipes.
Present.
Mr. Byrne.
Present.
Mr. Seroy.
Present.
Mr. Lear.
Present.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Present.
Mrs. Weber. Mr. Einfeld. Mrs. Peters.
Present.
Mrs. Evans.
Present.
Mr. Payton.
Present.
Mrs. Parker.
Present.
Ms. Dunbar.
Present.
Mr. Ritter.
Present.
Mr. Kinzinger.
Present.
Mr. Fairfield.
Present.
Mr. Wheeler.
Present. We have a quorum. Under public commentary today, I have one request. John Howard, former board member. Good to see you, John.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to hear you.
Into the mic, please, sir. Into the microphone, yes.
I made some notes to myself to try and stay within that limit. I have two issues I'd like to bring to the county board. I realize that some situations are not as complicated, are more complicated than it seems. I've been asked by some longtime residents of Pembroke Hopkins Park community to address two issues here. I'm going to try and get that done, hopefully within my time frame. And one was a request for an investigation of dumping of toxic and hazardous material in the Pembroke Hopkins Park community. And the other one was for a support letter to establish a social service office in the Pembroke Hopkins Park community. So I'll address the first one first, and that's on the hazardous material. Most of you are aware that Pembroke Hopkins Park has become a haven, for the dumping of hazardous material and other things that's found out in that community. So I was approached by some seniors as to how we could put an end to stopping all this dumping out there in the community. I suggested that they probably talk to their neighbors or any strange things that was going on to report it. And they reminded me, like myself, that they're senior citizens, so they go to bed about 4 or 5 o'clock after the news go off. And then they are also within 2 to 3 miles apart, from each other. So they don't see everything that's happening out there. So that wasn't a good answer that I gave them. The next thing they asked me to do, if I would approach the county board, and I said I probably could get some answers, some solutions from someone that's much smarter than I was. So, and the other thing that caught my eye was yesterday in the Journal, they had where they removed tons of tires that was in the community. And my question was, whose property was these tires on? And then what was the environmental impact that it had on the community there. A lot of times the community itself enables a lot of dumping and toxic material to be brought into our community. A lot of our leaders allow these things to go without saying anything or speaking up on this, you know. But that should be addressed as to who's dumping this, how they get in our community, and we'd like for the county board to look into it. So they asked me to ask the county board about considering opening up an investigation as to the dumping of these materials. I sent a letter to the county board chairman, kind of expressing that information that we were talking about in there. I don't know if you got the email or not. So if we could come up with some kind of solution, maybe you could address it to me or either Mr. Sam Payton, who represents that district out there, as to how we can better get a handle on the dumping of those materials. The next issue was that some of the families out there had come to me, and it's a hardship for them to get back and forth to the public service office in Kankakee to take care of their business, if it's the WIC, whatever. And it causes them to have someone to bring them to the up to Kankakee, and their appointment might be canceled or the social worker's not there. So I had sent a letter to the governor, and I got a response back from the governor that they would send that information on to the Department of Human Services and see what they could do. And I sent that letter also to the chairman. But what we'd like to do is to get a letter of support from the Kankakee County Board, and also NAACP has given us a letter too. If we could get a satellite office opened up in the Hopkins Park community, that would benefit a lot of the social services that the clients have to come from Pembroke to Kankakee on. And also it would be on a partnership thing, it would work out good, because then you would no longer have to look for places to vote. You would have that established there. It's like housing everything into one solid building out there. And I believe, Mr. Chairman, you have a letter of the building that we talked about. I sent you that information also.
Yes.
And all of that. That's it. So we just would like to get the support of the Kankakee County Board to do those things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to communications, have none today. Presentations, we have a proclamation in recognition of the Sam Myers Bridge for Mental Health Awareness. And if I could, I would like to get board member Elizabeth Dunbar to read that into the record, if I could, please. Yeah, sure, go ahead, please. You can read it up here in the front, read it into the record. Since she was instrumental in getting this done on the township level, we thought it'd be appropriate that she reads this into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it on?
Yeah, should be.
I also want to thank Mark Rogers, because he really brought the township and the county together. Thank engineer Mark Rogers, brought introduced me to the township, introduced the Myers. This is Brandon, this is Sam's dad. So this makes me emotional, so I'm sorry. Proclamation of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois. Proclamation in recognition of the Sam Myers Bridge for Mental Health Awareness. Whereas the Manteno Township Road District constructed and maintains a bridge over Rock Creek at 11,000 North Road at 0650 East, known as structure number 0463417. And whereas Samuel R. Myers, a resident of Manteno, voluntarily took his own life in his struggle with mental illness underneath that bridge. And whereas the Samuel R. Myers Foundation for Suicide and Mental Health Awareness was created to encourage and support suicide and mental health awareness, training, and education for the public. And whereas the Manteno Township Road District and the Manteno Township Board have named this bridge the Sam Myers Bridge for Mental Health Awareness. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Kankakee County Board that it recognizes the struggle many Kankakee County residents have with mental illness and support the work of the Samuel R. Myers Foundation for Suicide and Mental Health Awareness and many similar groups in combating the stigma of mental health issues and providing the resources county residents need in maintaining their own personal well-being. Be it further proclaimed by the Kankakee County Board that it thanks the Manteno Township Board for renaming the bridge in honor of the Samuel R. Myers Foundation and shining a light on this important topic. proclaimed and adopted this 9th day of January, 2018.
So to start, we need a motion to approve. Mr. Ritter, second Mr. Washington. For discussion's sake, I guess we wanted to make sure that the signs matched, I believe, with all the other county signs on the situation. So beyond, that's our involvement here, is just in recognition of this and to pass along that we are very sorry to the Myers family for their loss, and that we believe and support the effort to take that stigma away from mental illness and bring it out into the light. So I don't know if there's any comments from Mr. Myers before we move forward on a formal vote.
No, other than just a thank you to the county board, and obviously thank you to the Manteno Township and Ms. Dunbar for their assistance in getting this done. When we started this, our purpose in getting the bridge renamed was obviously not to honor the actions that my son took, but more to shine a light on if you don't treat your mental illness, this is a situation that you can end up in. So we were hoping that by renaming the bridge, we would help shine a light on treatment, so people would receive treatment. And also as a byproduct, unfortunately, the kids are out there painting all over the sign. We figure if we get a sign actually posted up with his name, then the kids won't be out there painting on the bridge anymore, so we won't have the graffiti either. So, but I wanted to thank the board and thank the township for their efforts.
Sure. We have a motion and a second. I guess all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on, also under presentations, we have Tim Nugent, the President and CEO of the Economic Alliance, with I guess would be a yearly update. You were here this time last year, I believe. Right. I believe. We'll have to make this a regular thing. Yeah.
I've got a presentation that will be up on the screen, and if you want to follow along there. Also, this presentation, I apologize in advance because there's a lot of information, a lot of good things that have happened over the course of the last year, and I wanted to update you on as many of them as possible. This presentation will be emailed to you later on this afternoon, so if there's anything on there that you can't read or you can't see, or you want to ask questions about, you'll have it in your inboxes later on today. If you could go to the next slide. I want to talk about what the Alliance mission is, some Kankakee County distinctions, the state of our local economy, our SEDS goals. The SEDS, we continually refer to the SEDS, that is the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy that was started in 2013. It was researched in 2013, took effect, and we are working under those goals for 2014 to 2019. And then talk a little bit about our marketing promotion and the SEDS goals. Next slide. The mission of the Economic Alliance is that we are a public-private partnership consisted of private business and the county board. We have 4 county board members that serve on our board, Mr. Payton, Ritter, Lear, and Vickery. We work to create jobs and expand the economic base by improving the local business climate. Under the Kankakee County Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, the Alliance is challenged to help spur $500 million in new business investment and 500 new jobs, along with assisting 150 new prospective businesses. Now that is in the 2014 to the 2019 period. And as you'll see as I go along, we're well on our way. The next slide will show some Kankakee County distinctions. Kankakee County has been named the #1 small metro area in Illinois for job and technology growth for 3 of the last 4 years. Also in 2016, we were one of the best performing cities where jobs are created and sustained. The next slide shows that we were #4 small metro area in the United States for the cost of doing business. And we're also on the Forbes list for the best place for business and careers for 2017. The next slide shows the GDP growth for the county from the last several years. You'll see that from 2011 to 2016, the GDP growth has gradually increased for the metropolitan statistical area. Now the GDP is finished products that are made in Kankakee County and either used here or shipped throughout the state or throughout the world. And you can see that we are rapidly increasing, and our GDP is at $3.5 billion and heading in the right direction. The next slide shows our labor force. The labor force is the amount of people that are working in Kankakee County. You can see that it peaked back in early 2008, and then it has come down a little bit. One of the things that we're having issues with in our labor force is that there's about 60 million baby boomers in the United States that are going to be exiting the workforce in the next 10 years. There's going to be about 40 million millennials that are entering the workforce in the next 10 years. So you see there's going to be about a 20 million people gap in the workforce, and that's reflected here in Kankakee County too. We have a smaller workforce today than we had several years ago. About 23% of the workforce in Kankakee County is 55 years of age or older. So in the next 10 years, there's going to be 23% of our population that is going to be going out, which is going to be creating a lot of jobs for the new people coming into the workforce, and there's a lot less new people coming in. So jobs should not be, an issue for the next several years or the next, few years to come. They're calling this the silver tsunami. All the people with the white and the silver hair are going out of the workforce, and the young millennials are coming in. But 60 million to 40 million, that's a huge gap. Next slide talks about the state of our local economy also. You'll see the job growth. You might not be able to read it, but it talks about over there from January through November. In January of last year, we had the same amount of people working in 2016 and 2017. But then from every month in 2017, we had more people working in Kankakee County than we did the year before. In February, for instance, we had 1,000 people, more people working here than we had in February of 2016. And you can go on down the line and see every month last year, 2017, we had more people working last year than we did the previous year. Kankakee County was ranked #1 in job growth, percentage job growth, 5 months out of the 11 that are there. And we were ranked 2 or 3 for 3 months. So out of those 11 months there, Kankakee County was 8 months we were in the top 1, 2, or 3 percentage job growth in the state of Illinois. So the myth about there's no jobs, it might have been true 7, 8, 10 years ago, but that's just not the case now. And you'll see that as we go to the next slide on the unemployment. Unemployment stands at 5%. It was about 4.7 a month ago. It went up, it ticked up a little bit in November. It's at 5%. But you'll see that it's the lowest that it's been in 11 years. Back in 2010, it peaked at almost 15%, and it continually comes down. So this is the lowest unemployment that we've seen in Kankakee County for the last 11 years. And the next slide will show that in Kankakee County, in the month of November, we were at 5%, which is the 0.8% less than where we were in November of last year. We're still higher than the state average, though. Even though we've got a lot of jobs available, we've got more people unemployed in Kankakee County than the state average. The state average is 4.7. The national average is 4.1. So we've got 5% of people unemployed. We're higher than the state, we're higher than the nation, yet we have jobs that are available. So we really need to work on trying to match up and align the workers that we have here that aren't working with the job skills that are required for the jobs that are out there, because there are jobs there just waiting, and the employers are begging for employees. The next slide shows the per capita income. Kankakee County 2016 per capita income was $38,171. Again, it's on the increase, but we are below what the Illinois is and what the United States is. Obviously, you can see by there, wages are increasing. Wages are going up, and that's a good thing. One of the reasons that we're probably below is, and that's probably one of the reasons we got some of those other distinctions about a good place at cost of doing business. But we want to get more people working, but we also want to get them making more wages. So you can see that it is on the increase, and it has been over the last several years. We need to continue to work on getting wages up, and I think you're going to see that as a natural reaction with employers that need more and more people to work. The wages are going to have to increase, and they already have started to go up in a number of our areas throughout the county. The next slide will show you in 2017, we had 29 major capital projects. A major project is one that we consider at least over $200,000 or more. We had total square footage in Kankakee County added of 483,155 square feet. a total capital investment last year of $284,561,000, and associated with these projects, there was 465 jobs created. So the total capital investment that has been made in Kankakee County in the last 3 years totals $1.5 billion. If you remember back to our first slide of what our goal was for that 5-year period, it was a pretty lofty goal back in 2014, $500 million investment. We're 3 years into it, and we're at $1.5 billion. So we're far exceeded it, and we're well on our way to breaking records of, for capital investment that have taken place in Kankakee County. And just to name a few of the things, included in this number is, projects that have been announced. The Nucor steel project that is going to take place this year, that is part of this of these numbers. When they get announced, we include them on here. Obviously, they won't be included in next year's project. We've also got expansions in Moments at Silva. Farm and Fleet is expanding. There's a new hotel being built in Bradley. The Fastenal just recently built a new facility in Bradley. The Meyer store is ready to open. IKO made a $15 million expansion at their shingle facility in the south side of Kankakee. Hooks to Trucking moved into Kankakee and expanded their facility. Moments Packing has expanded their facility. The airport has got a $60 million expansion there with the Black Hawk helicopters that are there. And if any of you ever get the opportunity to take a tour of that, it's a phenomenal place. That's where you want to be if there's ever a tornado, for sure. Because that place is built like nothing else I've ever seen around here. So when you see those numbers, it's kind of hard to imagine that that there was really $284 million of investment in Kankakee County last year. But those numbers are real, and those numbers come from the enterprise zone and all the different figures that we get from the different investments that are being made. So there's a lot of people spending a lot of money in Kankakee County. The next slide shows some feedback that we got from our employers. We do a survey of the employers to find out what's most on their minds, what are their needs. And the top one, the green line there, was about the state of the economy in Illinois, and nobody seemed that concerned about that. While once the budget got resolved, that kind of took a back seat. And then the next one, enterprise zone incentives. Everybody likes those, but that wasn't the top concern. The next line, the top concern, the workforce. Everyone is concerned about the workforce and where they're going to get the people to take these jobs that are being created all throughout Kankakee County. The other items, the energy, apprenticeships, the other different items that are on there, were all concerns, but nothing was as much of a concern as the workforce in Kankakee County and where they're going to get the people. And this is not a county issue. This is an issue that's all over the state of Illinois, all over the Midwest, all over the country. But we are experiencing it just like everybody else. And in order to try to help that, we have sponsored job fairs throughout the area. Representative Parkhurst had a job fair earlier this year. We sponsored a job fair out in the Pembroke area. We've worked with the Kankakee high schools to have career days there. So we're trying to work with the workforce board and all the different entities throughout to try to get as many people that aren't working into jobs. The next slide. This just talks about our goals. On the left-hand side, you'll see some of our goals of improving infrastructure, including shovel-ready sites. Things that are currently underway, as you all know, is the Bourbonnais Parkway development, and we are working there trying to, bring people there to develop. I think there's some expectation that the day that the ribbon gets cut for the entry for the, for that new overpass, that there's going to be facilities built up all around there. That just doesn't automatically happen. There's a lot of planning, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of work that's got to go into, into promoting that. And we are working with the Village of Bourbonnais on that, time and time again. We're going to be in Chicago next week at a commercial real estate forum, trying to promote the new exit there to bring development and to bring investment into Kankakee County. Other projects, the Downtown Kankakee Historic District, I know the county board has worked on that also. We're working with realtors to try to do something with the Roper site on the west side of Kankakee. And we're actually working with the city of Moments to develop a large mega site over there by their railroads. We were contacted by one of the railroads, and they're looking to to make a 400 to 500 acre mega site to have available. They don't have anybody that's looking for one right now, but they want to have land available and things that are developed originally, so that they if they have a large user that needs a 400 or 500 acre site, they can know that there's one in Kankakee County, and Moments is one of the spots that they have dual rail where the rails cross, and that qualifies for a site like that. The next section of the new employer recruitment, we're working with Enterprise Zone Administration. We are working with the consulates in Chicago and trying to bring the different foreign consulates down to Kankakee County to introduce them to Kankakee County. So if they have any companies that are from their home countries that might be looking to invest in the United States, that we're on their radar. We hosted a Future Energy Summit to talk about solar development. There's all kinds of solar interest in Kankakee County, and I know the planning department has been inundated with all kinds of applications that this board, I'm sure, will be reviewing in the next couple months to talk about solar development. We work with the entrepreneurship and small business development, working with KCC, with the Chamber of Commerce, the Community and Reinvestment Fund. We work with all different partners to try to work with small businesses and entrepreneurs and try to promote entrepreneurship in the area. Also working with local education on workforce development. This morning, KCC is starting their first registered apprenticeship program. At 8:30 this morning, they had a ceremony out there, just with a partnership with CSL to start an apprenticeship program where CSL pays employees, and 3 days a week they work at CSL, and 2 days a week they go to school at KCC to get their degree. KCC is looking to try to expand that with other employers throughout the county. And a number of different organizations that we're constantly working with to try to work on the fueling the workforce pipeline. Kankakee quality of life, increasing that was also one of our goals. And we worked on a sustainability plan out in Pembroke that is still underway, worked with the Wright House in promoting that in Kankakee. We were able to bring Wi-Fi to Pembroke Township with the assistance of Representative Robin Kelly. Riverside and the National Bank of St. Anne helped put money in to be able to bring Wi-Fi out to Pembroke Township. The next slide talks about some of our marketing projects. The Thrive magazine, which everybody has in the packet that I passed out, is a magazine that we work to produce once a year to talk about all the good things in Kankakee County. It just so happened that this year the head of the Nucor facility was on the magazine, and it was just right at the time when we were trying to get them to come to Kankakee County. So I think having him on the front of the magazine might have helped a little bit. The timing was perfect in that regard. You'll see also next to it says Dig Bourbonnais. We work bringing developers down to the Bears camp. The Bears could help us a little bit if they would change their, if the record would be a little bit better. Sometimes it used to be easy to get people to come down to the Bears camp because they wanted to come down and see all the famous players. This year, not so much, but we're still using them as much as we can. We attend site selectors forums. We attend commercial industrial summits with realtors to try to, advise them about Kankakee County and the benefits that we have. In your packet is the 2017 market profile, talking about all the businesses and who works where. The 2018 will be out next week. We have a website, workkankakee.org, where we constantly update jobs. So when anybody tells us, well, where are all these jobs? Where can I find the jobs? Workkankakee.org is the place to go to be able to find the jobs that are available in Kankakee County. We also talked about jobs and investment. In Kankakee County, we are very fortunate in the last few years to have CSL and companies like CSL and Nucor and Van Junen Farms out east, and Petting House and Plockman's and all the different companies that we have throughout the area. We don't have Amazon here hiring 50,000 people. But we've got a lot of great companies that are hiring, people for a lot of great jobs. Nucor last year purchased a company next door to them called Harris Rebar. They also purchased a company across the street from them called Alabama Metals. And then they additionally bought 140 bare acres next to the land that they've got. All that is in addition to the $180 million investment that they're going to make next year. Well, they didn't buy Harris Rebar, they didn't buy Alabama Metals, and they didn't buy that 140 acres to make for a footprint here for the next 2 or 3 years. They're here to stay, and we've got to, be aware that, that they are, constantly improving and making and investing money in Kankakee County, and we are working with them, in order to make sure that their investment in Kankakee County is the right one. We competed with Ohio to get that $180 million expansion, and Kankakee County won. And so I think, that tells us that, we can bring, companies here, and we can get huge investment. CSL's purchase of the Bungie property. I remember last year being here and everybody said, oh, Bungie's leaving, 250 employees, it's a catastrophe. Well, at the time it was, but it was also an opportunity. And the opportunity was for CSL to come in and buy that 75 acres. With that 75 acres, they have doubled their footprint. And I don't think you're going to believe the things that are going to happen there in the next 5 years. They've got plans that their money that they're going to invest there it boggles the mind for what they're going to do. So why Bungie left, the opportunity was there for CSL to come. So I think CSL, Nucor, Van Drunen Farm, I think those are the Amazons of Kankakee County. And those are good paying jobs. Those are jobs where, where you can raise a family, you can send kids to college. We are creating jobs at those facilities, but not just jobs, we're creating careers. These people are coming there and they're gonna be able to work there for years and years to come. I was out at CSL a couple months ago and I talked to the plant manager and told her about what a great thing it was for the county that they bought the 75 acres, that this is really gonna lock them in for the next 10 or 15 years. And she politely corrected me and said, oh no, this is not a 10-year investment. This is a 50-year investment. There's kids today that are in kindergarten that'll be able to go through high school and college and come back and work at CSL for a 30-year period. So this is a huge thing for Kankakee County. CSL, Nucor, that whole Route 50 revival that's taken place is a major, major investment for our area. And I think we need to, make sure that we realize that and that we, respond to that. And while we are always looking for new companies to come, we've got great ones here, and they're spending money and they're hiring people, and these are not minimum wage jobs. They're they're doing us a lot of good things in Kankakee County. The next is just the final one. We are available on Facebook and Twitter, all those social media things that I don't understand, but Lisa's really good at. I understand the fact that we need investment. Investment, creates jobs. Jobs brings people. People bring stores. Stores bring restaurants and hotels. So we need to increase our population. Our population has remained stagnant over the last several years. We're about 110, 112,000 people. If we can have these jobs and we can have people that will move here, and we can, have our population increase, everything else I think will take care of itself. So I'm available for questions, but I know I've taken a lot of time, and everything is available online. But my business card is in that packet, and if anybody has any questions, ideas, concerns, please let me know. But I just don't think we can tell the story enough that there's so many good things happening that are, I think we get tied down and bogged down by a few people that are naysayers that, they would complain about everything, but there's just too many good things going on here to let them win the battle.
I absolutely agree. It's, we actually get away from our keyboards and actually do things. Then you see good things in this community. So, is there any questions? I hope there are, because there's a lot of information there, but I stay somewhat connected to this. Steve, obviously the board members here stay more connected, but and the county way back when was very instrumental in helping getting this going. And it's to the point now that the private sector has stepped up and replaced the funding that the county is not able to provide anymore to the level we used to provide it. And it should be a good indication that the employers here see tremendous value in what we're doing. There's a lot of activity over there, and not everything can be talked about. It's kind of like Fight Club. You don't talk about it, but until you can talk about it. But those that have served on that board know that. So I would hope that if you don't have a question now, please get a hold of Tim and the staff over there and ask at any time. Sevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Tim, for coming, and it's a great presentation. My question is, to me, it's a huge elephant in the county, in our areas. How do we keep people that live here to shop here? I think that's one of, we're seeing what's happening at the mall. We're seeing what's happening with, other businesses. And I think that is the heartbeat of what's keeping, I'm sure that has to be a question that's at your table on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, obviously retail's changing daily. I mean, just, while I stood here and, talked about all the good things, there are some things that are happening that, they're negative. The Sears store closed. That's not a Kankakee County issue. That's a Sears issue. There's some other, places around that are struggling. Retail is in flux. I would love to be able to find a solution to try to revitalize the mall, where that became a destination again, and that we could rework that to make it be a place where everybody goes. I don't have the answer to that. There's a lot of places that are trying to get businesses in there, or office spaces, senior housing. There's all kinds of different things that are being discussed. But it all, it all has to work out on the pencil and paper too, and it all has to be financially feasible. Right now, the mall has got a new owner. Namdar bought that about a year and a half ago. They have made some investments there, but I really don't know exactly what they're going to do as far as trying to increase the local activity there. And with the Sears exiting, obviously that's a big blow. My concern not only with Sears is that in Manteno we have Sears.com, Sears Logistics, and Kmart. We have 3.5 million square foot warehouses owned by the same company that's in a downward spiral. Every morning I get up and I read Cranes, and looking to see, what happens next. But when I was up in Will County talking with John Grueling, who runs the economic development up there, and they're, busting out the seams all over, I'm telling him, I'm scared to death about what's going to happen. And he said, hey, don't worry about it. Look at that as an opportunity, not as, not as an issue. Because, and then I started thinking, what? He's right, because the same thing happened when Bungie closed. We were all scared to death that, what are we going to do here? We're going to have this big white elephant sitting there, and it turned out to be an opportunity. So, to answer your question about retail, I don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't know how we keep people here. I think we need, obviously, we need to have the stores that people want. But will that prevent them from hopping in their car and going up to Orland? I don't know. I think it's it's tradition almost as much as it is price sometimes. But I think we do have people coming here to shop from the South when they don't have places to go, or from Indiana, and I think it all boils down to having the stores people want. People can complain about the Walmarts and the Targets and the lower the more economical stores all they want. But if you drive through those parking lots, they're full, and they got people from license plates from all over the area. That's what people want. So I don't know. I don't know how we're going to stop people from going up north, but I think we just got to keep reinventing ourselves and trying to make sure that the products that people want are there, and hopefully they're priced good enough to to buy them. And, you look at all the comments. Every time a restaurant opens up, it's all the comments aren't about that good restaurant. It's all about, well, when are we going to get Portillo's, or when are we going to get this or that? We're never going to make everybody happy. We're never going to have everything they want. But you keep trying, and every one of those companies wants to be here, but it's got to make sense. It's got to make dollars and cents. And as soon as it makes dollars and cents, they'll be here. But I think population growth is one of our things that we have to work on. We're stagnant in our population growth. We've got jobs. I get on I-57 and come south every day, and there's more people coming south now than there is going north, because they're working. They're coming down here to work. We need to get those people to come down here to live. How do we do that? I don't know. We have the discussion all the time. I don't have the answer. Next year when I come back.
There'll be a test. Yes. Mr. Stauffenberg.
Thank you, Chairman. Tim, what's the status of Belson's moving? You know, that's kind of an eyesore, even though I buy things there and.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of on the front burner for a long time. Then they had some political issues, and it kind of got put in the back burner. But from what I'm told now, there's no movement. There's nothing happening that I'm aware of that's going to be. Now that could change depending on the relationship between the owner and the village government. But as I hear right now, everything is kind of on hold.
Thank you.
Mr. Washington, do you have something?
Tim, do you have a sense of what impact internet purchasing is having on the sales versus brick and mortar stores?
No, we don't have any data as to how much Kankakee County is spending on internet, sales, outside the area. Or, I don't have the ability to get that. I mean, obviously, I think it's having an impact. It's having an impact everywhere, and it's having an impact. Just drive around the stores and look. But we don't have any. I don't have any data to show that that X number of dollars are going outside the county because of internet sale.
Thank you.
Well, I can tell you, Amazon Prime, they've got like a path to my front door. It's driving me crazy. I'm sorry. I'm afraid to answer the door.
Thank you.
And I think that speaks to a lot of what you're talking about, Ms. Evans. That type of situation. I do know Amazon's looking at brick and mortar, believe it or not. They're doing that around the country, so it's interesting. Yes, Mr. Vickery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. The birth of the Economic Alliance was not an easy thing. George and I were there, and when we had to put that together and we had to fund it, and we had a board of 14 at that time, and so that was an interesting era in 2004, 2005, and 2006 when we put that together. So I'm glad to see its success, and I might add that in Moments, there are 2,200 jobs. Okay, we're very proud of that fact over there. So it's been a long time coming, and and getting things up and running. So thank you.
How many people live in Moments?
2,300.
Yeah.
800 people all.
Thank you, Mr. Vickery. Moving on. No vacancy appointments. Certificates of recognition. Zach Kerwin, 10 years at the Sheriff's Office. Michael Georgelos, the Sheriff's Office. Did I say that correctly, Sheriff? Nice. We were arguing over the pronunciation. I win. Ruth Myrick, 15 years at the Circuit Clerk. Cynthia Van Witzenberg, 15 years at the Circuit Clerk. And Brenda Claudio, 20 years at the State's Attorney's Office. Ah, you're here. Nice. Jim, go ahead, please.
20 years is quite a while. Ms. Claudio's been an assistant state's attorney, a prosecutor in the state's attorney's office now for 20 years. If you compare that to how I feel after 1 year, that's about 2 centuries worth of work. And you should get more than a certificate for that, of course. But Ms. Claudio has been a prosecutor on the front lines of some of the most awful and horrific cases in Kankakee County. And those are the ones where either a victim has been murdered or even a victim of sexual assault, rape. She has stood up for victims over the course of her career, and I can't think of a stronger fighter and a champion for those victims that goes into court every single day on their behalf. So on behalf of the state's attorney's office, the county board, the people of the county, and most certainly on behalf of all those victims who you have sought and obtained justice for over the years, we thank you for your service, and I hope that in 5 more years you're up here for your 25th anniversary.
Alrighty, the minutes of the last meeting from December 12th, 2017. I need a motion to approve. Ms. Parker, Mr. Byrne, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Claims Committee reports.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your Committee on County Claims would beg leave to report they have examined the following claims presented and recommend payment. The clerk is hereby authorized and directed to issue orders to the several claimants payable out of the funds as follows. The Highway Fund, $655,598.74. All other funds, $1,131,154.83. Total for the month of October 2017 of $1,786,753.57. For November, the Highway Fund, $282,277.41. All other funds, $181,379.77. A total for the month of November 2017, $463,657.18.
I need a motion to approve October and November 2017. Mr. Legess, second. Mr. Stauffenberg. That'll be a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Legess.
Aye.
Mr. Stauffenberg.
Aye.
Mr. Vickery.
Aye.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mr. McConnell. Mr. Mulcahy.
Aye.
Mr. Snipes. Mr. Byrne.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber.
Aye.
Mrs. Peters.
Aye.
Mrs. Evans. Mr. Payton. Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mr. Kinzinger.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. On our department reports, I need a motion to combine and accept the reports. Mr. Seroy, second. Mr. Mulcahy? Or was that a scratch? Sorry. If we could read those into the record, please.
County Collector's Monthly Report for October 2017. Total cash and investments, $4,779,692.02. The Collector's Monthly Report for November 2017. Total cash and investments, $4,255,956.72. The Treasurer's Report for October 2017. Total cash and bank and investments, $4,779,692.02. Treasurer's Monthly Report for November 2017. Total cash and bank and investments, $4,255,956.72. The Coroner's Monthly Report for November. Total calls, 99. Coroners, 17. Autopsies, 10. Toxicology, 10. 0 outside autopsies. 0 donations. 1 indigent. 1 x-ray. 56 cremations. And the total fees, $6,115.74. The Circuit Clerk Cash Book for month end November 2017, total dispersed $322,177.25. The Recorder's Monthly Report for November 2017. Disbursement fees paid to the County Treasurer, $107,264.80. County Clerk's Report for September 2017. Total of $21,944.80. County Clerk's Report for October 2017. Total of $25,437.80. County Clerk's Report for November 2017, total of $36,003.16. Animal Control for the month of September 2017, total of $26,573. In the IPTIP Building Fund, $132.03. Total animals handled, 91. The Animal Control Monthly Report for October 2017, total fees, $23,326. IPTIP Building Fund, $139.30. And total animals handled, 87. The Animal Control Report for November 2017, total fees, $24,457. The IPTIP Building Fund, $137.30. And 67 animals handled. The Monthly Building Report for October 2017, Total permits issued of 79, fees collected $23,429. Total extra fees of $2,985 for a total of $26,414. And the building division report for November 2017, total permits 43, fees of $12,449, total extra fees of $1,596 for a total of $14,045. And the monthly resolution list for December 2017 and January 2018 is on file.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to combine and accept the reports. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Under committee presentations and resolutions, before we ask about pulling some off, I just want to note an incorrect, I guess, nomenclature is about the best way to put it, or acronym. EEOC, it should be EEOP on the resolution and on the list here. It's number 9, so we're still going to vote on it, but it's just a Scrivener's error. I'll also mention that with number 4, the ordinance establishing a policy to prohibit sexual harassment in Kankakee County. This is the one we have to approve at this meeting by the new state law. But there are going to be some changes in there. We had a couple of mays that should be shalls we're going to bring back to the next meeting. And as far as how to proceed with some of these actions, we're going to bring that back. But I'm asking that we do approve it as part of consent, and then we'll bring it back at the next. I would say probably executive would be the appropriate committee to bring that to, and then we'll bring it back to the full board with those tweaks, if you will. So it's nothing major, just a few things that had to be cleaned up, and thank Mr. Kinzinger for catching some of those and bringing it to the state's attorney's attention. So beyond that, is there anything else that needs to be pulled off?
No, but you are about to pull off 9 and to clarify, but you asked for the code.
We're okay? Anyone else, Mr. Vickery?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Ms. Dunbar, I need to read those into the record, I believe. Yes, read them to the record.
The declaration and disposal of surplus and unwanted vehicles for the probation department. The declaration and disposal of surplus and unwanted vehicles for the sheriff's department. Resolution requiring consent to the reappointment of the incumbent as county engineer. An ordinance establishing a policy to prohibit sexual harassment in Kankakee County. ZBA case 17-07, request for rezoning from A1 Agriculture District to A2 Agriculture Estates District on a parcel generally situated in section 25 of Yellowhead Township. The petitioner is Gary A. Hayes, property owner and applicant. ZBA case 17-08, request for a special use permit to section 121-99.c.3, automobile wrecking yard / junkyard, and variance to section 121-99.c.3, fence, in the A1 Agriculture District on a parcel generally situated in section 4 of Limestone Township. The petitioner is BSF Properties, LLC, property owner and applicant. ZBA case 17-09, request for a variance to section 121-281.b.2, accessory structure setback, in the A1 Agriculture District on a parcel generally situated in section 12 of Yellowhead Township. The petitioners are Ambrose and Shirley Marcotte, property owners and applicants. ZBA case 17-10, request for rezoning from A1 Agriculture District to A2 Agricultural Estates District on a parcel generally situated in section 8 of Salina Township. The petitioners are Ryan and Ashley Romero, Brian Stevenson, and Clyde W. Davis, property owners and applicants. Adopting the Equal Employment Opportunity Utilization Report, EEOP. Appointment of Michael Taylor to the Kankakee County Board of Health. Appointment of Dondi Miracle to the Kankakee County Regional Planning Commission. Reappointment of Gerald Thiessen to the Yellowhead and Washington Union Drainage District Number 2.
One thing to note that I forgot to mention before we vote, on the sheriff's surplus vehicles, there was, I think that's number 2, we had some incorrect, car numbers, VIN numbers, miles, so I'll just read those into the record. For car number 11C2, VIN 5796, the mileage is 122,676. And for vehicle 11C7, VIN 6732, the miles are 112 even. So I just want to make that note. That came into me this morning before the meeting. I apologize, I didn't mention it before. So we do have a motion and a second. So we need a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Washington. Aye. Mr. Legess. Mr. Stauffenberg. Mr. Vickery.
Aye.
Mr. Hess. Mr. McConnell. Mr. Mulcahy. Mr. Snipes. Mr. Byrne. Mr. Seroy. Mr. Lear. Mr. Hildebrand. Mrs. Weber. Mrs. Peters. Mrs. Evans. Mr. Payton. Mrs. Parker. Mrs. Dunbar. Mr. Ritter. Mr. Kinzinger. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on, under finance, the state's attorney appellate prosecutor program. We have a motion to waive the reading of the resolution and accept. Mr. Legess, Mr. Byrne, is there any questions about this resolution? This is something we do yearly. It's, I want to say, almost like an insurance policy when we need to bump things up to that program. Is there a better description, Mr. Rowe, that you can
They
provide?
handle all of our appeals. They represent the county. So anything that goes up to the appellate court or beyond, they are able to assist with labor negotiations as well. Anytime we have a conflict, they come in as a special prosecutor. So there is an expense in this. It costs $24,000, but the savings over the course of a year is substantial. If we had to hire outside counsel to handle any of that when there's a conflict, the cost would go up exponentially. So it's a very valuable program, and I think we've come out ahead on it probably every year.
Yeah, and it has not gone up. That's still the same as it was before. So, any other questions? We have a motion and a second. We have a roll call, please.
I think there was a question.
Oh, there was? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ms. Peters, I'm sorry.
She was scratching her.
Okay, another scratcher.
Mr. Washington. Mr. Legess. Mr. Stauffenberg. Mr. Vickery. Mr. Hess. Mr. McConnell. Mr. Mulcahy. Mr. Snipes. Mr. Byrne. Mr. Seroy. Mr. Lear. Mr. Hildebrand. Mrs. Weber. Mrs. Peters. Mrs. Evans. Mr. Payton. Mrs. Parker. Ms. Dunbar. Mr. Ritter. Mr. Kinzinger. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye, motion carries. The purchase of a copy machine for the county clerk. Need a motion to waive the reading of the resolution and accept. Ms. Dunbar, Mr. Vickery. If there's any questions about this went through committee in finance, and if anybody has any questions, please let me know. Alrighty, move on to a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Washington. Mr. Legess. Mr. Stauffenberg. Mr. Vickery. Mr. Hess. Mr. McConnell. Mr. Mulcahy. Mr. Snipes. Mr. Byrne. Mr. Seroy. Mr. Lear. Mr. Hildebrand. Mrs. Weber. Mrs. Peters. Mrs. Evans. Mr. Payton. Mrs. Parker. Ms. Dunbar. Mr. Ritter. Mr. Kinzinger. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye, motion carries. Next item, the leasing purchase of county vehicles and purchase of related equipment by the probation department. First need a motion to waive the reading of the resolution and approve. Mr. Washington. Second, Mr. Payton. Any questions about this one? This came through committee as well. Criminal justice, this was something that was contained within probation's budget. It didn't go to capital, so we didn't have to increase or fund this out of the general fund per se. It came from probation. So this is, I want to say, not a formality because we have to approve it, but not a mere formality. We have to approve it, but it is something that we've heard about. So with no questions, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Washington. Mr. Legess. Mr. Stauffenberg. Mr. Vickery. Mr. Hess. Mr. McConnell. Mr. Mulcahy. Mr. Snipes. Mr. Byrne. Mr. Seroy. Mr. Lear. Mr. Hildebrand. Mrs. Weber. Mrs. Peters. Mrs. Evans. Mr. Payton. Mrs. Parker. Ms. Dunbar. Mr. Ritter. Mr. Kinzinger. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries.
Does it start after the board meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Moving on to other business. We have some openings. One opening on the Kankakee County Regional Planning Commission, down from 7, I believe. We've whittled that away over the course of a year. There was 9, yeah. 6 openings on the Board of Examiners and Appeals, engineer, architect, commercial contractor, residential contractor, electrician, and plumber. Current members need to reapply. We're sending out letters to the current members also. If they want to be on it, then speak now or forever hold your peace. So we're moving on. One opening on the Joe Bennis Drainage District, one opening on the Mantino Drainage District number 3, one opening on the Mantino Drainage District number 9, one opening on the St. Anne Fire Protection District, one opening on the Emergency Telephone System Board 911. Do we know which appointing agency that is? Is that a county board appointment? Okay, I just want to make sure. One opening on the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, one opening on the Kankakee County Public Building Commission. That is something Bill Gilmore did retire, so we have an opening on the PBC. That you may, some longtime board members know that is basically who funds a lot of the bonds, if you will, or floats the bonds for some of the building projects that we have. Really, the jail is the big one that's out there right now, the Criminal Justice Center out there. So, so with that, we already did the appointments. I guess now I need a motion to enter executive session for employment matters involving specific employees, 5 ILCS 120/2 C2. Mr. Hess, a second. Mr. Hildebrand. That's a voice vote. All those in favor? No, wait a minute. That's leaving. Roll call to go in. Roll call vote.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Legess. Aye. Mr. Stauffenberg. Aye. Mr. Vickery. Aye. Mr. Hess. Aye. Mr. McConnell. Aye. Mr. Mulcahy. Aye. Mr. Snipes.
Aye.
Mr. Byrne.
Aye.
Mr. Seroy.
Aye.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Mr. Hildebrand.
Aye.
Mrs. Weber. Aye. Mrs. Peters. Aye. Mrs. Evans. Aye. Mr. Payton.
Aye.
Mr. Parker. Mrs. Parker.
Oh, aye.
Ms. Dunbar.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mr. Kinzinger.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll be back in just a moment. Yeah.
Was my prayer simple? Was it?
Thank you. We are now back from executive session. Mr. McConnell is the only board member who is not here. He is just leaving the room right now. Or as Pat McConnell has left the building, ladies and gentlemen. So the first thing that I want to do is, go to old business first. I apologize. Any old business? Any new business for the board? Mr. Lear?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've received a copy of the schedule of meetings for UCCI. I would invite board members that would like to accompany any of those meetings to check with me. I'll be glad to share that schedule with you, and you can see if you want to come down. There's 2 times a year that are particularly highlights in terms of UCCI. One in February when they have a legislative reception, and one in July when they have a retreat out in Galena at the Galena site. So any of the meetings in Springfield or those 2 special meetings, you might want to consider whether your calendar to be free to attend those.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on, we just want to mention Moving on. That's my thing now, I think. Moving on. We're going to be canceling the Criminal Justice Committee meeting for tomorrow. There's not a lot on the agenda, so we're going to save the taxpayers $70 a pop for all the board members to show up. So this is exorbitant fees that they pay. So is there any objection, Mr. Snipes?
No, I had something else.
Okay. I'm
Certainly,
sure
I would not talk to
I'm
the-
sure you do, but no, I say that with all respect. Also want to mention the Tim Ryan event from Dope to Hope is on January 16th, 7 p.m. at KCC, free admission. We all know where that's at. So if there's any other questions, I think it's sponsored by the Sheriff's Department, the Coroner's office. So if you have any, and it looks like Health Department in Riverside. So if there's any questions about that, you can contact those folks. That says hors d'oeuvres and light refreshments. I think I'm going now. Is there anything else, Mr. Snipes?
Yeah, just FYI, I generally send out every year the Black History Program is coming. As you know, we have 300 kids in the show this year. Great group of diverse individuals with time and talents, and it deals with scholarships as well. But we have the ad big book coming out, and certainly you probably call Diana, someone to fax it over to them. But I encourage you all, because I want to be able to get to the Democrats, Republicans, Independents, anybody that wants to in between, to be able to get their ads into those books. And cutoff dates will be up on that. But I encourage you to turn around and come out to the show. Just get your tickets early. It's on Sunday, February 11th. And as Jim and anybody tell you, it is packed out. It's by the tune of 1,300 in the fire department lets us put a few more chairs out, but not many. But it's a packed out thing. Come see these incredible kids do some incredible things or whatever.
Thank you. Anything else? Motion to adjourn, Mr. Legess and Mr. Mulcahy. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Have a good day. Take care.